Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together. Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Hello, Lisa.
Hey, Shelly.
Lisa, again, we've got a fantastic guest joining us. I'd like to say a big welcome to Amy Cattapan. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Shelly. Hi, Lisa. So great to be with both of you today.
Thanks. We're glad you're here. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. So I am an author, speaker, retreat leader, and teacher from the Chicago suburbs. I just started today my 30th year of teaching, which I cannot even believe I have been in this field this long. But I have been an English teacher for now about 30 years. I started as a high school teacher and then moved to being a middle school teacher. And I have written several books. I actually started with writing for kids. So I wrote 2 novels for young readers, a middle grade mystery and a young adult fantasy. And then, actually on a retreat, or actually getting ready for retreat and then going into retreat, Jesus hit me with a new idea. In prayer, he said, write a book about teaching like Jesus. And I get these one-liners sometimes when I'm in prayer. I don't know if this happens to other people, but it's like the Holy Spirit drops in with a one-line piece of direction and then leaves. And I'm like, can you come back and finish? I'm not quite sure what you meant by that. I need a follow-up. So can you explain what it means to write a book about teaching like Jesus? This sounds like a book for adults and I write for children, and it sounds like nonfiction and I write fiction. So I'm going to need a follow-up to this one. And that is actually what started my career with Ave Maria Press. So I've had 2 books for teachers with them. Sweet Jesus, Is It June Yet? Which is the book about teaching like Jesus. That's what it ended up being called. And another book for teachers called A Saint Squad for Teachers. And then my newest book called Hope Without Borders, which was half written by Mother Cabrini herself. I kind of just finished it off for her.
Yes. And that's the one that we've invited you here to talk about. I love this book. I just have to tell you. And I love your Saint Squad for Teachers, but I keep giving it away to friends who are teachers. And like I mentioned before the show, now I have to order another one for me again, which isn't a bad thing for you, but I will probably give it away too. Because I have so many teacher friends.
The bulk order discount or something at this point. Just buy a set of 5, get the discount, and you can give them all away.
Just hand them out.
Well, I love Hope Without Borders, and there's a copy if you are on YouTube and you can see that. It's beautiful. And I love the way you put this together. It reads like a devotional, but I see that it's also kind of set up like it's a little retreat.
Yes.
I mean, that's how I see it. It's like a mini retreat for you.
Exactly.
So how did this come about? I mean, what was the inspiration for it?
So it's part of a series by Ave Maria Press. So you'll notice on the cover it says Great Spiritual Teachers. So I didn't come up with the format. That someone else came up with years ago. And that person wrote, I think, the first 8 or so in the series. So the whole idea with the series is that you have, as you say, kind of a mini retreat for 30 days with a particular saint. And each day you get something to read in the morning. It's just a few hundred words, so easy to have with your morning cup of coffee or whatever it is that you're drinking in the morning. If you're doing a little prayer time, it's a few hundred words, something that saint wrote. This is why I say Mother Cabrini wrote half of it. In fact, if you look at the listing on Amazon, it actually lists Francis Xavier Cabrini as the author, and I am merely the editor. And I'm like, well, okay, I will give her credit. But to be fair.
You're more like co-authors.
Yeah, we're a little bit more like co-authors because the part in the morning is from her letters and her retreat journals. then I wrote a one-liner thought of the day, like something you can just keep with you based on her writing. And then I wrote a prayer for the end of the day. I also wrote a biography at the beginning. So if you don't know much about her, you can go and read the biography. And I also wrote a timeline of the major events in her life and canonization process. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the whole format. Now, how did I get to doing the Cabrini book? Mm-hmm. Because like I said, there was an original editor, author, if you will, for this series. And then Ave Maria Press has had some other authors take on some other people. Like there's one for Servant of God, Sister Thea Bowman, mm-hmm. that came out just a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that one too. And so how I got involved in this is I was actually at the National Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis last year. And I was signing my teacher books at the Ave Maria Press booth. And the editor for Sweet Jesus Is It June Yet came up to me. And first of all, she wanted to talk about The Chosen. So there's a shared love that we all have. She wanted to talk about The Chosen. And then she said, well, I'm here to pick up my new book from Ave Maria Press. So she did the Joan of Arc version of this series. Oh. And you might be thinking, but wait a minute, Joan of Arc didn't write anything. True. But we have the transcripts from her trials. So instead of a saint's writing, you get what was said actually at her trials, because that was all recorded. So we were talking about her Joan of Arc book, and we were looking at the series there laid out on Ave Maria Press's booth. And as I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, they have some of my favorite saints. Someone's already done Catherine of Siena. She's a saint that has chased me for some years. And then all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, where's Cabrini? Because I had put Mother Cabrini in my Saint Squad for Teachers book. And she had been chasing me for a while. Obviously, the movie came out last year, right around the time my Saint Squad for Teachers came out. So there was like this whole new push for Cabrini. And I was like, has nobody done the Cabrini book yet? So I emailed the editor over at Ave Maria Press. And I said, listen, if nobody is doing this, I volunteer as tribute on this one. Like, just sign me up. I will take this one on. And Josh Noam, the editor over there, is like, yeah, no one's taken it. That sounds great, wow. So that's how I ended up doing the Mother Cabrini one for this series.
I love that. Right place, right time. And you threw it out and kind of grabbed it,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's the fastest concept to publication book I've ever had, because it was a year. Yeah. It was a year from the Eucharistic Congress to the year came out. And for those who don't write books, that doesn't happen. It's like you finish writing the book and then it's a year after you finish writing it. So imagine it's 2 or 3 years usually after the concept before you get to the actual holding the book in your hand. I'm like, I can't believe I'm holding this book in my hand a year later. So it's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
What was your personal connection to Mother Cabrini?
So Mother Cabrini died here in Chicago in one of the hospitals that she started. And like I said, I'm from the Chicago suburbs. So you would kind of think maybe as an Italian American and as somebody from Chicago, I would have known a lot about her when I was younger. The truth is, there was a neighborhood here in the Chicago area called Cabrini Green, partially named after Mother Cabrini. But it was an area that was like low-income housing, but then it became an area of crime. And so unfortunately, when I was a kid, my association with the name Cabrini was not with a saint. It was a neighborhood in Chicago you wanted to stay away from, right? Yeah. And so then when I was older, I was like, wait a minute, Cabrini Green, that's named after a saint? Like, wait a second, who is this woman? And I knew she had a connection with Italian Americans, that she was Italian, but I still didn't know much about her until I was doing research for a Saint Squad for Teachers. And then I was doing the research and going, oh, she's a teacher like me. In fact, she started as a public school teacher in Italy. We have a shrine here in the spot where she died. So the hospital no longer stands, but there is a shrine there now. They preserved everything from the room where she died, and they kind of recreated it there in like a little museum area next to the shrine. So you can go and you can visit it. So I went there when I was doing the research for a Saint Squad for Teachers. And I started realizing, oh my goodness, she was only like 5 feet tall. I'm 5'2". Right? So I started realizing we had all these connections. Italian ancestry, her family and she were from outside of Milan. My grandfather was from northeastern Italy, so both northern Italian people. both of us petite, both of us teachers, having taught in public schools, but also having worked in Catholic schools. Both of us with a deep care for immigrants. My dissertation was on engendering empathy for immigrants in middle grade readers through culturally relevant young adult literature. Because if you know anything about dissertations, they have long titles. Mm-hmm. And so we both had a strong care for immigrants and both had strong ties to Ignatian spirituality. Mm-hmm. So I just felt her presence everywhere I was going. And everything I learned about her was like another little connection point to her. So that's why I was totally willing to be like, I volunteer to do this one because this saint is chasing after me. And I think she really wants me to work on this.
I think that was spot on perfect for you too. Lisa and I have talked before about our connection, our family connection with Mother Cabrini, because our family did immigrate from Sicily in the early 1910s. And it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years ago that my mother shared that when her father died, our grandfather, he had his mother's prayer card, and it's a photograph of Mother Cabrini, not just a print, but it's an actual photograph image of her. And she had carried that in her purse. And then after she died, that was the thing that he got, and he had it in his wallet. I don't know if he had it in his wallet when he passed away. I think that he had probably put it like in a special keepsake box then. But it got me thinking, wait a minute, our family came through Ellis Island. Well, one came through New Orleans or Galveston. The other one came through Ellis Island. And she was there for 2 weeks at Ellis Island with an 18-month-old daughter for likely to become a public charge. Basically, little grandpa had to go and get her and claim her. And she spoke no English. I wonder if she was, missioned to by Mother Cabrini's order that she had started there and maybe that's why. And New Orleans. And it just kept building up.
Yeah.
But I didn't know much about her until my family and we went to Denver.
There's a shrine there too.
And we were looking for things to do, and we ended up going to her shrine there on the mountain in Golden and climbed the steps and learned all about this saint. And it was fantastic. It was so good. We went back a second time. The next time we went it was like number one on our list. We have to go back. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, it was less about the movie. I loved the movie.
Yeah.
But it was so much more about that I got to spend time reading her words. Mm-hmm. I read a biography about her, but I hadn't read her words presented like this. So how did you even begin to start making the selection? Because I think it's divinely inspired personally.
Well, I tried to be open to what the Holy Spirit was moving me to. So yeah, I think, like you, I had read multiple biographies, obviously, on Mother Cabrini in order to include her in the Saint Squad. But I hadn't read a lot of her own words. And you see the movie, and the movie's always kind of a dramatization. You're like, well, is this what she was really like? And so I started looking to see, well, what do we have out there? And there's basically two main sources of her writing. We have her retreat journals, because as I mentioned, she was big time into Ignatian spirituality, which meant she went on retreat often. So anytime you go on retreat, you're doing like Mother Cabrini. She was a big time retreatant, and she would do St. Ignatius's spiritual exercises. She would do imaginative prayer. She would ask her sisters to do it as well. She would do a daily examen, and she would write down in her prayer journal what she was thinking, what she was feeling, what she was praying about while she was on retreat. And those have all been compiled into one book. So that was one of the sources. And then the other thing we have for her writing is a collection of her letters. So she traveled all over the world, setting up these schools and orphanages and hospitals. People think about her coming to the U.S., but she went to Central America and South America several times. She went back and forth between the Americas and Europe because she wasn't just in Italy. She also set up schools in England and in France. And I know there ended up some in Spain. I'm trying to remember if that was during her lifetime or afterwards, but she was back and forth. And when she would travel to one place, often she was on a boat getting to the next place, and she would write these letters while she was on these boats. And she would often have, a week or two on a boat getting to her next location. So she would write a letter to her sisters in the other locations, encouraging them, letting them know how her travels were going. So what I did is I read through all of her letters. I read through all of her retreat journals, and I just noted anything that kind of stood out to me, anything that I thought had something to say to us today, and kind of just kept track of it. And then it was a matter of narrowing it down because they only give you 30 days, right? So I'm like, I have to pick like sort of the 30 best, right? And keep it to a certain word count. So I made a list and I went through trying to make sure I wasn't duplicating things that were too similar, because sometimes she repeated some things between her retreat journals and her letters. And then I just decided to do it in chronological order. So that you could see her journey. So the first few are just retreat journals. They're before she really started traveling. So you get like her early years as a sister before she's really getting her order up and running and seeing what her faith is like then. And then as time progresses, there are more and more of her letters. So that at the end, I think the last 4 or 5 days are all just some of her letters that she wrote.
Mm-hmm. That's really fascinating. I've read a biography of her. I have not seen the movie. I'm probably the only person who didn't see the movie. But I keep hearing a little bit more and more about her being tied to Ignatian spirituality, which I just found fascinating because I don't know, it seems surprising to me. But it's so, I love the fact that they've compiled her journals and her prayer journals into one book. So now I want to go find that.
So her letters are in the public domain. The English translation are in the public domain. So you can actually find, there's like 3 versions out there right now. The one I used was from Catholic Treehouse. And that guy was just a big fan of Mother Cabrini, realized it was in the public domain and said, well, somebody needs to put it in print. And then that came out right on the same time as the movie, which he did not plan. He's like, that was a God thing. I was just putting it out there. And then he's like, then this movie came out. I was like, perfect. And then there's a priest who did a version, and then there was another version that just came out. So you can definitely find printed copies. And if you don't want to purchase them, you can actually look up Mother Cabrini's letters, public domain, and you can find it if you're willing to scroll through PDFs online. Her journals are not in the public domain. We had to get rights to use the quotes from her retreat journals because those rights are owned by the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart.
Yeah. I loved that you talked about how in the introduction, she was afraid of sea travel. And so she would retreat and do those retreats there as a way of kind of passing the time or dealing with it. And I thought that was really pretty, just so you know.
Yeah, she had a rough childhood. She was born 2 months premature. She actually should have been born right about my birthday. And when I say my birthday, I mean mine and Pope Leo's birthday, because Pope Leo and I share a birthday, okay? I'm just letting you all know ahead of time. Prepare yourselves. It's coming up September 14th. Pope Leo and I are celebrating different ages, but same day. And she was actually due right around that time. She came 2 months early on July 15th. So she just celebrated year 175 this past July.
No.
And they didn't really expect her to live long, right? At that time, 2 months premature was really premature. So she was always considered kind of like a weak little child. And then when she got a little bit older, she would go and visit her uncle in a neighboring town. And this is something that's in the movie that is totally true, because sometimes, in the movie, they kind of pull things together to dramatize. But this is a true story in the movie. As a little girl, she wanted to be like St. Francis Xavier. And I found out, remind me, I'll come back to this. I found out why she wanted to be like St. Francis Xavier on a very special trip I made this summer. But she wanted to be like St. Francis Xavier, be a missionary. So she would make paper boats and then put in them little flowers, like little violets, that she pretended were her missionary sisters. And she would put them in the river by her uncle's house to send her missionary sisters out into the wild world to spread the love of Jesus. Aww. And so, obviously, she had a calling from a very young age, but she fell into the river one time and nearly drowned. And again, they did not think she was going to live long after that. So that is where her whole fear of the sea came from, was from her near drowning as a child. So it is really amazing that as she puts it in her writing, she became as good of a sailor as she did, that she was able to like withstand the seasickness as well as she did, because it was really hard for her in the beginning. So she took the time, as you said, as just like a retreat time to kind of like settle in and do her spiritual exercises and write her letters.
I remember that in the movie because I hadn't read that in the biographies that I had read before about her. And so I thought that was dramatized. And, you know, Lisa knows me. So I'm all armed with, I don't think that, I think they took a license with that. And I'm doing my research online and I'm like, oh, no,
it's true.
that really happened.
Yeah.
Wow, this movie was better than I thought.
Yeah, right.
And I loved the movie, but wow, this movie was better than I thought.
Yeah. There's some things that you could tell they made like some composite characters. They combined some people in real life and did some things like that. But there's a lot in the movie that is true and really gets at just her whole determination. I would say one thing people have complained about is that they don't show as much her reliance on God, which is what I wanted to make sure came across in Hope Without Borders. I wanted to make sure people really saw that she was just total surrender. I trust in Jesus.
Yes. I mean, one of the things I wrote in my review to you for your book was that I found myself yearning to have that level of faith in my own life. I mean, every time I think I have faith and I trust in God, and then I read this book and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have like a drop in the ocean that Mother Cabrini has in here. And I have to tell you, one of my favorite lines for all through the day is, Sacred Heart of Jesus, my heart is like a blank sheet of paper. Write the fire of your love on it. And I was like, you had me at hello. That was it. Right? I can't put this book down. I'm like, but I can't do all 30 days. Never mind. I'm just going to read them all.
Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. You can do the 30 days in any version that you want. Because some people are like, what if I can't stick with it for 30 days? That's okay. Yeah. If you got to put it down and pick it up again later, that's fine. And other people are like, I'm just reading through it.
Plowing right through it. That was me because it flowed so well. And I could see where, okay, if I were still commuting to an office, that's the book that I would keep in my car, and I'd get to work 5-10 minutes early. I'd sit and read this in the morning and then go into the office. And then when I come back out to drive home, or maybe when I pull in the garage, then I would read the ending part and kind of do that. But I no longer have to commute to an office. So, yeah.
But
anyone who's disappointed in that.
Anyone who's listening, buy the book, commute to an office.
Yeah.
And read it that way.
You got your plan.
Drive to a library, sit in the parking lot. I don't drive to your coffee shop, sit in the parking lot.
There you go.
Okay, so tell us the story about Saint. Why she?
Yeah, so about the St. Francis Xavier.
Yes.
So I always kind of wondered, I'm like, okay, if you're growing up in a small town, like an hour outside of Milan, how do you get involved in St. Francis Xavier? Like, where does that come from? You're a little girl and what made you decide you want to be a missionary? Like, how did this happen? So I was really blessed this summer to go to Italy and to go to Mother Cabrini's hometown. And I was there the day the book launched. The timing just worked out perfectly. I decided to go to the Jubilee of Digital Missionaries, which was at the end of July. The book came out July 25th, which was the Friday before. And so I went online. I found the website. It's in Italian for her birthplace. She's from a small town called Sant'Angelo, which is the Holy Angel. And I emailed in Italian. I don't speak Italian fluently, but I've studied it enough. I can handle an email with Google Translate to like back me up. And so I emailed saying, I have a book about Mother Cabrini coming out. I'd like to come to her birthplace on the day the book launches. It's Friday, July 25th. Can I come? And this lovely woman in charge emailed me back saying, yes, you can. And we'll arrange a tour in your preferred language. I was like, thank you, in English, please.
Oh, wonderful.
Like, I don't think I could listen to a whole tour in Italian and catch everything. So it was beautiful. I was quite the adventure because, like I said, I know enough Italian to like get by in a pinch, but this was tricky. She was from a small town, as I said, about an hour outside of Milan, in the middle of like farm fields. Okay. So I had to like, from my B&B in Milan, I had to get onto a tram to get to a metro, take it to the end of the line, to get on a bus that made stops in the middle of like fields. I don't even know what they were growing. They looked kind of like cornfields to me. I was like, what am I doing here? Nearly didn't get on the bus because I almost missed it. But by the grace of God, I got there, and I got to the her birthplace, her house that she grew up in time for the tour. And the woman was giving the tour in Italian, but they hired a young man, like a college guy who spoke a number of languages, to repeat everything she said in English for me. Thank goodness. So they're a private tour. There was nobody else there signed up for the day. So this was a totally private tour, and they're taking me around the house she grew up in. And they brought me to, the main room where there's like the hearth and everything. And then they showed me this book, and they're like, this is the Catholic Annals. And her dad would read this to her and her siblings every night. And inside is the story of different saints. So she would hear the stories of these different saints as her dad would read to her and her siblings every day. So I said, I have to ask then, is this where she heard about St. Francis Xavier? And she said, yes, this is where she got the idea to become a missionary, and heard his story. I was so enthralled as her dad read the story to him from the annals that she decided she wanted to be a missionary sister. And then while I was there doing the tour, the director got a phone call. So she stepped aside for a moment, and then she came back and she said, I have one of the missionary sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus on the line here. She's actually an American. But she's stationed here in Italy now. She was here yesterday giving some girls from the Cabrini school in Brazil a tour, because they toured the birthplace and then went over to the mother house in Codogno. And I told her there was an author coming from America. So she wants to know, will you stay here until she gets here? She wants to take you to the school Mother Cabrini went to as a child. And then she wants to take you out to lunch.
Oh, how lovely.
How do you say no to that? You don't.
No. God is just smiling on you through all of this, through her intercession.
Absolutely. I was like, absolutely. So this lovely Sister Teresina came over, and she brought me over to the school where Mother Cabrini went as a kid. It is still a school today. It's just a preschool, though. It's just for kids 2 through 6. There are 2 of the missionary sisters who live there. One works at the school, and the other is the Sister Teresina, who actually just commutes to the mother house a few towns over. And she showed me this chapel is basically the same chapel she knew as a child. Obviously, the altar's been changed since Vatican II. They turned those things around. But she said, these murals you see on the wall are the same ones she saw as a little girl. And of course, the one in the center is an image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So I was like, so that is where the Sacred Heart part comes from. So it made all the connections for me, right? I'm like, and now I know where she got St. Francis Xavier as a role model. Now I know why she was really devoted to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So it was a really beautiful time that, again, like you said, I think Mother Cabrini was completely smiling on me and opening up doorways to opportunities that just would not have happened at other times.
That's fabulous.
Amy,
you wouldn't be able to plan something like that. That just...
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Lisa and I did that. Lisa, what was the charism class that we did during the pandemic? Was it St. Catherine of Siena Institute? Charisms? Yes. Okay. So we did that. Yeah. And one of the things that really stood out to me was the extraordinary faith charism. And one of the things about it that stood out was they used Mother Cabrini as the example of having extraordinary faith. And I remember they quoted her as saying something to the effect of, if I thought about the resources, I would never get anything done. But basically that she would just be like, okay, we're going to do this. Well, where are we going to get the money? God will provide it. Let's build it. And she just had that extraordinary faith. And that's as you are telling me this story, that's what I'm hearing is this extraordinary faith that you didn't even think, oh, I think I'll go there and meet all these people and get all this special attention. And yet she's just like, look, all the resources right here. Boom.
Yeah. She's like, I got you. Well, here, I'll take that story even one step further. So I told you I almost didn't get there because I almost didn't catch the bus at the right time, right? So then I went to lunch with Sister Teresina, and she's like, so how are you getting back to Milan? And I said, that's a good question, sister. I said, I took a bus from the last metro stop at the outskirts of Milan. And the bus driver kind of just dropped me off at the outskirts of Sant'Angelo. And I didn't see a bus stop for going back in the other directions. Do you know where I pick up the bus to go back to Milan, or where I even buy a ticket for the bus? I'm like, I have neither a bus ticket or where the bus stop is. I'm just trusting the Lord's going to help me get back to Milan.
Oh my goodness.
She's like, Amy, I gotcha. I will drive you to Lodi, which was a town just like 15 minutes away. She's like, there's a big train station in Lodi. You can get a train back to Milan from there. And I was like, that is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Goodness.
She had to go ask a friend. Okay, you have to understand, this Sister Teresina, I think she's like 77 years old, because she had worked in Brazil for a long time. She had worked in Ethiopia, and I think somewhere else in Africa for a long time. And she said at age 75, they told her, you have to come back to Italy or someplace with a good healthcare system for your age. Sister, we can't keep you in Ethiopia. I'm sorry, at this age, you need to come back. And I think she said she'd been back in Italy about 2 years. So she's like 77 years old and spry as can be, but she's like, I have to get a friend to tell me how to get to Lodi, because she's like, the roundabouts here, I'm going to make the wrong turn. So like funny. Even she was just totally trusting. I'll get you to the train station, Lodi, because I will find a friend who will help me drive there. I mean, it's just like trusting in the Lord upon trusting in the Lord that the friends we need are going to show up.
Oh my goodness.
Great example. I mean, you're there and you're close to Mother Cabrini, St. Cabrini, and the trusting in the Lord. And then this sister is just showing it to you in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a very, very blessed day there.
What a wonderful experience. I do remember seeing bits and pieces of your trip on social.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes stories. I haven't had a chance to share everything yet, but that was a great day. I think that what I shared from there was that the picture of me in her birthplace, they have like a little library there of all the books written on Mother Cabrini in all the languages. And luckily I had some advanced copies and I'd brought one with me. And I was like, would you put it in the library here? And she was like, I was hoping you were going to. Yes, let me catalog it for you. So I got officially cataloged and put into the system. And I was like, okay, I cannot believe I have a book in Mother Cabrini's birthplace. I mean, again, blessings on top of blessings that day.
That is awesome.
I love how she showered that on you.
Mm-hmm. And she showed up everywhere on that trip. I was in Milan doing a tour of the Duomo the day before, and the tour guide was, asking people, where are you from? Have you been here to Milan before? And I said, well, I've been to Italy, but this is my first trip in Milan because I'm going to see Mother Cabrini's birthplace tomorrow. So we're going, if you've seen the Duomo, if you've been there, if you've seen pictures, it's a huge cathedral, took hundreds of years to build. And it's got all of these saint statues on spires, hundreds of saint statues. Mm-hmm. We get up to one of the middle level terraces, and all of a sudden the tour guide turns to me and she's like, you're the one who's interested in Cabrini, right? I said, yeah. She said, she's right there. They took down one of the older saints and put her up. Because the cathedral's way older than she is, right? They took one on the older saint. I was like, oh my goodness. And then somebody else, I think it was at Cabrini's birthplace, was like, well, have you seen her statue in St. Peter's? So then the next week I was there for the Jubilee of Digital Missionaries, and we had adoration at night in St. Peter's after it was closed. It was an absolutely gorgeous thing. St. Peter's is like in the dark. Only the chair of Peter in the back is lit up. But just like to the left of the main altar up high is the Mother Cabrini statue. And she was there like practically over my shoulder the whole time during adoration. And I didn't realize it until I went to leave and I went to look back and I was like, there she is. She's right up there. So she was just showing up everywhere. She was showing off at this point.
She was making it memorable.
Yes.
So I love that. Yeah. What kind of feedback have you gotten? Have you heard from readers about the book?
Yeah, I think what has really impressed me is that there are a number of people who, like you, have read some of the other ones, right? Like the Sister Thea Bowman one, or I'm trying to think of who else. I have a few of them over there.
Francis de Sales.
Yeah, Francis de Sales. I got that one too. Catherine of Sienna's on there. And what's really kind is I think when people are like, you know what, there's something about this one. I always enjoy the series. Every book in the series I've enjoyed, but something about this one is hitting differently. And I don't know if it's because we find her more relatable because she's our first American citizen to be canonized. I don't know if because, she was living only about 100 years ago. I don't know if it's just because she has such an incredible trust in the Lord, but there's something about it where people are just connecting with it. And I'm so glad because I felt a connection to her, right? And I thought, well, I have all these reasons to feel connected to her. And I think she has great wisdom for the world, but I'm like, maybe that's just me, right? So to hear that other people are really connecting with her, I think is really beautiful.
Well, I have two of them. I have the Thea Bowman and St. Francis de Sales. And both of those, you have a lot more text in yours from Mother Cabrini. I think that might be a part of it because her writings are just so powerful. And you really have, by divine inspiration again, you really have just culled out passages that really get to the heart of her trust and surrender. And like I said before, inspire us. And that combined with my connection with Mother Cabrini, I think is what really draws me and connects me to it.
Yeah, like I said, it was hard to cut them down. So I probably was pushing the word limit a little bit. But I'm like, I can't. And sometimes I was like, you're going to find the use of some ellipses in here because sometimes I got to get the story in there, right? And I could cut out some part that was like, she got a little tangential in this part. Like, we don't maybe need this part in it. But I wanted to make sure I got the story, I think, in there. And that might be part of it too, is that maybe it's the fiction writer in me. I want there to be an element of a story that's coming across.
And it does.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And it's not centered text. It's paragraph text. So I think it reads a little easier, a little more like a story. And I do see ellipses on day 13 in the storm to Nicaragua.
Shelley's like flipping through. Now I'm going to look for it.
You told me my camera is frozen. So I'm taking advantage.
There's two. I'm looking at day 13. There's two of them. And there's one towards the beginning of day 13 and one towards the end because I had to get in the key parts.
Yeah. No, you did a beautiful job putting it together in a very readable way that draws us in. And I don't know how many times I'm going to say that in this interview, but at least you can go back later and count.
I was going to ask you what's next? Do you have a new project?
Nothing official.
Okay.
I have ideas for things. Like I've thought of some different things I might do with Cabrini and dive deeper into her. I would love to do something with Cabrini and St. Ignatius. Like I was saying, we both have this Ignatian spirituality tie. I'm twice Jesuit educated. I went to Marquette for my undergrad. I went to Loyola Chicago for my doctorate. So 2 Jesuit universities there. Before we started recording today, we were talking about my younger brother is the associate director at a Jesuit retreat house here in the Chicago suburbs. We're all going to be meeting soon for a writer's retreat over there that I'm going to be co-leading with Lisa Hendy. So I've been trained in Ignatian retreats and leading Ignatian style retreats. So I have this whole Ignatian background and she has this whole Ignatian tie-in. And so I just really hope that kind of comes across in the book as well. And people, can draw from that and get inspired to go on retreats themselves. I'm just realizing, where was the beginning of this question? Did I go off tangent on this one?
Just what's coming up for you? Which
I think
you.
That's right. I was like,
she said question very well.
Yeah, I start on this one. As we mentioned, today was the first full day of school, so my mind's still a little bit reeling from that.
That's a great answer, and I'm really interested in that because over the years I've been reading more and more about Ignatian spirituality and being introduced to it. And where we're going in Chicago, this will be my first time to go on a Ignatian style retreat or mini retreat. And so I love that idea of kind of bringing together, Mother Cabrini and her Ignatian spirituality. And I like that.
I think there's something out there because you mentioned before it was surprising that she was involved in Ignatian spirituality. And I think one of the reasons is the Jesuits are one of the few groups out there that don't have a female side of their order.
Yeah.
And there aren't any lay associates either. Right. So some orders, you can be a third order Dominican, you can be a third order Franciscan, you can be a lay person who's practicing the spirituality. The Jesuits don't really have that. There are Jesuit priests and there are Jesuit brothers. They're all men and they're all religious. There's no lay version. And so I love that there are women who have really connected with Ignatian spirituality. I'm going to blank on the name of the saint, but it's in Maria Maria Johnson's book. I know you talked with her recently on your podcast, her a second act book, Beautiful Second Act. There's a sister from South America who was big time into Ignatian spirituality, right? Do you remember this part?
Yes, I do.
Like the Jesuits are like ousted for a while. Yeah. So she had to kind of take over and keep that Ignatian spirituality going when the priests there were no longer able to do their thing. And I have found that there's a number of women, especially women religious, and I know a lot of lay women who are very involved now in Ignatian spirituality. There's a connection there too that I think could be potential future project as well. So like I said, nothing official, but there are plans to do something with all of that.
That sounds good.
That's beautiful. And I'm coming along, but I don't have a real deep-seated knowledge about Ignatian spirituality. I know Lisa has read about it, but I have not. I've read biographies of St. Ignatius because that's the history in me, not always reading the facts, but I'm really looking forward to diving into that.
Well, we will go into it on the retreat, so you have something to look forward to.
I know. It's funny how you go visit places, and then you realize you're making connections, and that going to Spain a few times for me, and kind of running into Saint Ignatius over and over again, especially at Montserrat, and then we were in the Basque region. Oops, there goes my dog. So I'm really. It just keeps. I just keep getting like he's following me. Yeah.
You're getting chased a little bit now too.
I am.
Ignatius has chased me at times as well.
All right, Shelly, do you want to? It's hard. I can't see any visual cues because you're frozen.
I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't dare restart again.
That's okay. That's okay. We have questions we ask every guest on the podcast, and Shelly usually does those. So I'm.
Yes.
Pointing at you now.
So, Amy, I mentioned to you before we started that because Lisa and I are sisters, we always ask our guests if they have a sister. And if they do, would they share a sister story that won't get them in trouble? You told us before the show you do not have a sister, but you have brothers.
Yes.
So we're just going to ask you, do you have a brother story that you can share that won't get you in trouble?
Yeah, that won't get me in trouble. I'll try to think of, I have 4 brothers. 3 of them are older and 1 is younger. They were all, people would say, oh my gosh, you're the only girl with 4 boys, you poor thing. But the truth of the matter is they're awesome brothers. And I never knew an existence with a sister. I didn't know what I was missing. Right. So they were, I got teased. I used to have my hair in ponytails. Those watching online will be able to see me currently putting my hair into like 2 pigtails by my ears, the good old fashioned ones like this. And so like my older brothers would always make me sit in the middle seat of the station wagon, right? That was my spot, the middle seat of the middle seat of the station wagon. So brothers would grab me on the side and would take my hair because I grew up, in the 70s and 80s. They would take my hair and wrap it around and give me the Princess Leia buns. So that's the kind of relationship I have with my brothers. They were teasing, but they were always sweet about it, right? I was their like Princess Leia, but I wasn't like a spoiled Princess Leia. I was brought up to be the tough princess. Like of all the Disney princesses, I was brought up to be the tough, independent, self-sufficient kind of one. One of my sister-in-laws, when she found out that I was the only girl in a family with 4 boys and that our family was Italian, she said that before she met me, she thought, oh, this girl has to be like some Italian princess sort of a thing. And then she's like, I found out you're really not like that. And I was like, well, thank you. Yes. I'm not the pampered only girl. I was brought up that you're going to learn everything the boys learn too. So, So I guess that's my sibling story. Teased, but well loved.
I like that. All right. And then the last one, you've mentioned so many saints today and you've got your whole squad book, but is there one particular saint that is currently knocking on your door, like saying, okay, when you're done with Cabrini, come look over here?
So this is hard. I feel like different ones pop up at different times. Like I went through a phase where Catherine of Siena seemed to really be following me. Mother Cabrini has definitely been there. St. Ignatius has definitely been there. Padre Pio likes to come in strong now and then and pop up at times. And I don't know what that's about. So I wonder if sometime, like is something coming up, Padre Pio, that I need to know about? I don't know. Another one who was tugging at me last year was Mother Theodore Guerin, who was another teacher in Indiana. She set up schools for girls in Indiana. So, and again, as I mentioned before, all the women saints who were involved in Ignatian spirituality, I think they're slowly gathering forces and making their own little squad to come after me. I've had various squads in my time. Like before my saint squad, I really had Italian female saints. Like I had I called them my little sister squad. I had my Catherine of Siena. I had my Saint Cecilia. I had Rita of Cascia. I had Saint Clare. I had Mother Cabrini. Blessed Chiara Badano. Like there was a whole little group of Italian women who were like, we're coming for you, Amy. And they were just very present all the time. So we'll see who crops up the most now. But yeah, like I said, we don't know. There's a number of them who periodically pop up on me.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's great. Okay, Lisa, you're up.
Okay. Thank you, Amy, for being here. And where can our guests find you, our listeners find you?
Sure. So my website is ajcattapan.com because when I started writing for kids, I decided to use my initials. Like all the cool children's authors, your C.S. Lewis, your Ellen Montgomery, your J.K. Rowling, they all use their initials. So I thought I will be AJ Cattapan. So that is my social media handles too. Instagram is where I'm the most active. So you can find me as AJ Cattapan on Instagram. My Mother Cabrini book, Hope Without Borders, and my teacher books are with Ave Maria Press, so you can find those books there as well.
Perfect. Thank you. This has been enjoyable. You are such a delight to have on, and we can't wait to see you in person. In
yes, I'm so
just
excited.
A few weeks.
Yes, in just a few weeks. I'm so excited. We're going to get to hang out in person, even if it is a semi-silent retreat and we can't talk the whole time. We will find time to talk. Don't worry about it. It'll happen. And I feel blessed to be on your podcast. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll say thank you, dear listeners, for being here and for tuning into Sound, Mind, and Spirit. And if you have enjoyed the podcast, then let us know. Reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram. Leave us a comment on YouTube. And don't forget to make sure you're subscribed so you're notified every time we have a new podcast. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you, Amy.